right, we are now recording this demo. So, as I just stated, we are actually going to do a transition between two shots where we're going to use an object, in this case, a van going by, to create a wipe that wipes on the next shot. This is commonly used. It could be a mailbox, could be a light pole, could be a body just walking in front of the lens. But this kind of stuff gets hidden in movies all the time, and it's super handy to know how to do it. And so we're going to consider this another transition. And I'm going to call it car pass. So let's go ahead within our transitions project. Let's do a new composition. We're going to continue to use the 23976 frame rate, 1920, all the stuff we've sort of been doing. A black background's perfectly fine. And I would name it something like car pass. I'm going to put a 3 on mine because I have several and I don't want to get confused. Got a little preview video box. I need to get out of the way here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, cool. So now the footage that we brought in last time hopefully is somewhere where you can get to it. If not, feel free to go import in the footage that we brought in last time. We had some paint burns and splotches and some of the stuff that we did our virus stuff with. But there are two clips that we want to pull out of that to make the effect that we're working on for our car pass. The first of which is the background, which is the city scene. And if you do a search for single, you will get a clip. This is assuming you already have it imported in. Single man crosses the street, downtown New York. That's the clip we want. Go ahead, drag it and put it into your new comp. And you will see our lovely city scene and two cabs go by, and then the bus or the van that we're going to use as our transition goes by. So we'll never actually see this car because we're going to wipe to something new here. All right. So if I were you, I'd probably set your workspace, your loopable time to something like 4 seconds. Maybe 5. Let's do 5. So I'm going to hit the letter N to mark off the end of that. And now if I play it, it just loops around this, and I get a little time before the van goes by and a little time to see the next shot, and then it loops back. All right. So now the shot we're going to reveal is going to be another shot that we already brought in, and it starts with the word attractive. So if you go to your project window and you start typing attractive, by the time you get ATTR in, boom, the one clip that is what we want will be the only one left. And I'm going to put that underneath this shot because our top shot is essentially going to wipe away, get out of the way, and reveal the shot underneath. If I don't like the moment that I see when it goes underneath, then I can stagger the clips a little, and I can make them work better. But for now, to our advantage, those two just starting at the beginning together is going to be perfectly fine. All right, so we now have two stacked clips. We have a clip that we want to leave with a masked end is essentially what we are going to do. So in the interest of having some room to draw outside of the image, I'm going to scale mine down. So my playback window here is set to fit so that no matter what proportion I make my screen, it's going to try to scale it up and make it easier for me to see. However, I actually want some margin. So if it's at about 50 now, I'm going to ballpark it down to about 25. So I've got a lot of extra room around the outside to be able to draw. All right. Now, if it were me, and it is because you're going to follow my steps, I would park somewhere in the middle of where the van is. So in a sense, like there's basically a period, well, I say the van, the end of the van. So the end of the van comes into frame about here, right? That's going to be the beginning of our little wipe sort of, and it's going to go all the way to where it completely disappears. So I want to go somewhere in the middle of that. So I'm going to just ballpark it at about here. Maybe I'll even go a little further back so that the bumper is just touching the white lines of the crosswalk. Let's maybe do that. That's probably a little easier to see what we're doing. All right. I'm going to lose my voice before this is over. Okay, so we don't want to be messing with our lower track because we're not actually going to do anything to it. We're going to select our top layer, and then we're going to get the old pen tool out. Right? You remember me saying early on that 80% of your time in After Effects is spent penning things. So that's exactly what we're going to do. All right, so I am going to pen this butt end of this van, and I am going to do a pretty rough job of it. So I'm not going to worry about making perfectly curvy lines and stuff like that. You're not going to be turning this into me, so don't feel like you have to be exact about it. I'd rather we just get through the exercise. But know that yes, you can be as perfect as you want with like this curved tire just by making the sort of Boolean Bezier sort of turns, right? But I'm not going to mess with that. But I'm going to start a little outside of the image because I know eventually it'll have to come into the image as I move back in the frames. So I'm going to start a little outside and I'm going to start drawing and I'm going to do a hack job around this. And I'm just going to get it approximated, kind of follow a little bit of the curvature of the back of the van. Not perfect by any means. And then give myself a little margin outside. And then we're going to need the butt end of our mask to go back pretty far. I can't go any farther than this, and that's fine. I can expand it later when I need it. But I am going to complete the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and draw down here and go ahead and click back on the original line. And as soon as I do that, the exact opposite of what I want to happen has happened. Well, that's okay. We just need to invert it, right? So if I then make sure again, I click on this layer and I hit the letter M, I can get my mask controls up. Notice mask path is the only thing that comes up when you hit the letter M. That's part of what I don't like about it. So I'll collapse mask again, open it again, and boom, now I have a lot more settings, which is kind of nice. But the inverted checkbox is right here. I'm going to click it, and then it's going to look the way I expected it to look, and I can see the van, and I can't see what's behind the van. I see the next shot. So that is actually the way we want it to look. Now, here's the sucky part, right? We need this to move, which means we're going to have to move this mask one frame at a time to get it to do what we want. It is the best way to do something like this. There are ways to do motion tracking and stuff like that, but as I've tested it and as I've been told by people who do it every day, it doesn't have to be perfect. 9 times out of 10, this will be the fastest solution. It won't seem like it because I'm walking you through it, but it is the fastest solution. So we're going to do it this way because it is what is recommended. So the point is, right now I have a shape, but if I move my footage, don't do this, but I'll do it. You'll notice my mask does not move with it. So it really is only right for this frame. So this will be my first keyframe under mask path. So I'm going to hit the stopwatch icon next to mask path. And now it is in that position at this moment in time. Now, if your keyboard has page up and page down, then you can basically go 1 frame at a time forward and back. The arrows do not do that. The arrows are used for making adjustments to settings. So don't use the arrows, use page up or page down. You can also, of course, zoom way in on your timeline. And then you might even just be able to just knock your playhead forward and back 1 frame. But I'm going to continue to call it out as using the page up and page down. All right, so now we get to pick a direction. Which direction do we want to go? Well, let's maybe go backwards. Okay, so I'm going to go back a frame, which should move the van to the right, because that's where it came from. All right, so now my shape doesn't quite work. I need to move the whole entire shape back a little bit. So if you have last clicked on mask path, and if you have not, then be sure and do it now. If the last place you clicked was mask path, she sells seashells by the seashore, then all of the dots along your path will all be solid. So in my case, I have solid pink squares. That tells me that if I grab one of these points, the entire mask will move together, which is actually what I want for what I'm about to do. All right, so I just moved it back. Now, if I go back to the other frame, it works. If I go to this one, it's not quite right, but you can at least tell that I was judging by the tire because the tire looks essentially the same. Now, Bryce, that's not perfect because now these back frames are actually way too far away, even though the tire looks okay. This sucks. What do I do about this? Well, if you click off into nothing, your little anchor points that you drew with your pen tool become circles, not squares. They are now adjustable. So you can actually go in and correct what's wrong. The only thing is, I accidentally had mask 2. Let's try that again. Click outside. Click, where is it? I just did it. It was working. Oh, I'm sorry. I know why. We didn't turn off our pen tool. Okay. So when you need to adjust these, you can't use the pen tool to do it because if you do, it thinks you want to start a new mask, which is what you saw it do to me. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go up and I'm going to go back to the arrow, which is also the letter V on your keyboard. Now, if I click on nothing, it doesn't try to start a new mask. These do turn into circles like I said they would, but you can actually make the adjustment to make them look more correct. And again, don't worry about making it perfect. Just make it close enough that it kind of works. And then I would go to the frame before that. And I'm going to do the same thing. If I want to move the whole thing, I got to click on mask 1 on the mask path layer. Boom, these all turn into squares. Now it'll all move as one thing. I'm going to worry about my tires here as my main concern, and then I'll fix the rest. Now I can click on to nothing, adjust the individual points because again, the pen tool was already turned off earlier, so I don't have to do that again. Now I can continue to finesse. And when I am ready, I can move on to the previous frame, do the same thing again, click on mask path, then click one of the points and you can drag the whole thing. Maybe it's easier if I actually align the back of the van and just fix the tire. That actually might be fewer mouse clicks at this point. Doesn't really matter from what I can tell. It doesn't seem to matter that much how much you change your approach as long as you are kind of consistent about it. All right, so the problem with this frame is I can see the top of the van now. So I need to actually bend the top of this so that I can start including some of this. Now, if you need a point and you didn't draw enough of them, you can go back to the pen tool and change it to the add vertex tool. And then when you click on it, it will actually let you set some more points, which I would maybe do, especially at the tops and bottoms, so you have some ability to round stuff out later. All right, so even though I got this frame looking pretty good, I went ahead and added some points. Now I'm going to go back a frame, do the same trick, hit the mask path so that everything highlights. Pull the whole thing back, get the back of the van right. I'll fix the tires now. Click on nothing, fix the tire. And see these extra points start to come in handy because I can get a better curve out of this tire if I have some of the extra points in there. All right. Bottom of the van is white, really bright white. Kind of weird. All right, so just keep going. Just keep swimming. I don't think I like that bright white. I think it's distracting. So I'm going to get rid of it. Right, so just keep doing this till it looks halfway decent and you have gotten through to where the van is just coming into frame. All right, we're not going to care that much about the ground becomes our problem if you haven't figured that out already. Because the van doesn't completely block the ground. Be ready to undo when you click too many things. As I do a lot as I'm working. I click on too many things. I don't know why it's trying to rotate. Stop it. All right, so I'm going to do a little switcheroo here because I need a keyframe over here or a bendy point over there. Over there. It's not terrible, and these are too high. And I'm going to start putting these out here so that I've got some room. Move that down, back a frame. Still terrible. Select everything, pull it back. So as you can see, the road like never gets blocked completely. So we're going to bring on the texture of the next road, which in this case is actually a sidewalk. That'll probably come in a little earlier than the van did. We'll just have to see if we can get away with it. We'll see what I mean as we get closer. Once I get this back edge completely out of here, it'll be our next problem. So as I go back, okay, mask path is fun. It's this slow process. Slow and steady wins the race. Now, again, we're going to probably feather this. There is mask feather. We don't have it on yet. I tend to just not even worry about it until I play it and then see how bad it is, and then use that to fix things that I don't like. But yeah, I'm pretty close. So now we're almost to where the only thing left in this that is problematic is in fact going to be this road. I've got a little bit of a problem up here with the roof, but I'm not afraid of it. See, roof's going to pretty much go in the same trajectory. That actually, even that frame looks pretty good. This frame looks pretty good. Even though I've got this weird tire thing over here, no one's going to know it because it's out of frame. Keep going. I've got the angle about right up here. So now I need to pull back essentially on the effect and hope that the movement of the truck through the van is actually going to distract the audience. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to move it back. Go back another frame, move it back a little more, go back another frame, move it back a little more, go back another frame, move it back a little more, go back another frame, make sure it's completely out. Now it should come in, kind of close in on it on the top and bottom. And of course I'm good till I get to that mid one where we started. Now I have to go the other direction. But man, we're getting good at it by now. So what's our concern? Nothing. We just love wasting time playing with this. It's the whole thing though. Got to do it. Get good at it. These are what I consider my Bob Ross moments, where I need to come up with inspirational little lines to keep you focused on how boring this is and how important it is to get it right. Anybody having any problems or questions? Because once I get mine done, I'm going to move on. It's just fun having a click back, mass path, click back again. It's actually pretty good. I don't even really move it that much. This is when it gets fun because you're like, cool, I don't have to adjust that much each time. Maybe just a smidge here and there. But again, it's going to be remarkable when we get this done how actually forgiving the effect really is. It depends on how fast the object's moving too. Obviously, if it's really slow, you're going to totally see it. But if you've chosen well, now here we have a problem, right? Because now my van is almost all the way over there, which is great, but my points are now not far back enough. So it's totally cool. You can move these after the fact. Make sure you didn't miss anything. And do that again and make sure you don't. Ugh, stop. Next. And it's gone on the next frame. Fan freaking tastic. All right. So I can go through real slow and you'll see it. The top and bottom sort of cheat their way in. Hopefully your eye will be distracted by the big white flying object in the middle. And you've got this transition that almost hits the edge of frame, but then boom, gets big enough that it doesn't, and then we're good, and it's all completely masked out by here. Cool, so let's talk about our softness. Now we have keyframes tied to mask path, but we don't need to tie a keyframe to feathering. We like just at least starting with the idea that you can apply feathering to the whole entire mask all at once. So it is keyframeable. So if you found yourself going, I really only need that feathering when it gets this close to camera or something, you can do it. at later, and you can keyframe it if you want. We're not going to. I'm just going to leave it at that and make it a little softer edge, just so it's a little forgiving. As you can see, this is like totally off. This is bad. Bad example. Do better. Yeah, that's better. But when you get it to where you can play it, try it and see if you can't like totally get away with how rough you have it. It's amazing to me. People don't see it coming, and yet it's this lovely sort of transition that just sort of connects two shots very naturally, very organically. It's awesome. I do want to try something here. If I put motion blur on this, what does it do? I think my feathering's doing the same basic thing. I could be wrong, but I'm not seeing much of a difference. You're welcome to try it on yours if you want. Maybe a little bit of a difference. Feels a little video-y without it. But again, it might just be that I don't have enough feathering on it. All right, so important plot point as you're finishing that up. We went ahead and we knew what shot we were using as our source, right? Because we had to track with something. We pre-decided, yes, a van passes. But let's say this shot, you weren't 100% sure this was the take that you wanted to use of this moment of dialogue. Well, if you go into After Effects to build this, you could build it and then just turn off the lower track, right? Because then it's going to wipe to nothing. And if we export it with alpha channel, then it will be transparent. So now you have a truck driving by whatever you want during the edit. So it could reveal the logo, it could reveal the end at the end of the piece. There's all kinds of ways by just keeping your options open and saying, I think this is the take we want. I'm going to go ahead and export it that way, but I'm going to do a second export and I'm just going to turn off the cafe shot, and then the editor can change to something else if they want. So you keep your options open because of alpha channels, because it's going to do just as nice of an alpha channel key as it does in here in Premiere, assuming that you export it to preserve the alpha. So kind of cool. Another way to sort of think smarter and work less and be smarter, right? That's the key. All right. Does anyone have any pertinent questions about that? And is anyone stuck? I'm going to stop recording.